Knock at the Cabin exposes a certain truth about M. Night Shyamalan. So this movie's interesting. I would say for this film that this is M. Night Shyamalan at his most restrained. If you followed his career, you know how M. Night Shyamalan has certain kind of tendencies and how sort of hit and miss his career can be, but this, I think, is his most restrained film. The cinematography, of course, like with many M. Night Shyamalan films, is pretty good, very much playing in that thriller aspect. I mean, the Letterboxd review I left basically said that M. Night Shyamalan in this movie is in his thriller bag, because he really is. I also want to give special shout out to the acting. I think while this movie is fairly contained, it has a pretty solid cast. Of course, led by Dave Bautista. He's the one really sort of leading this film in terms of the main presence you're probably going to walk away remembering, but the cast is really solid. Like, you know, they have Rupert Grint in a very not Ron Weasley role. They have my boy Jonathan Groff, who I mainly know from Mindhunter. And yeah, it has a really, really solid cast. And I think there are moments where that cast being so solid helps M. Night Shyamalan, because there's little moments with the writing and some of the line delivery where it does have some of M. Night Shyamalan's negative tendencies, which I'll get into that more later. But yeah, this is a pretty solid thriller. So if you're looking for some maybe counter programming for this Valentine's Day month, this is not a bad one. So yes, I want to talk about M. Night Shyamalan. He is an auteur and he has a multi-decade career. I have fortunately been alive long enough where I've seen M. Night Shyamalan go from being hailed as like the new Hitchcock to basically anything with his name being attached to it, people laughing at him. And I would say where M. Night Shyamalan's career is right now is he's definitely a little bit more on an upswing. I think his last two films, Glass and Old, definitely were misses, with me in particular, Old being a pretty hard miss. I have some friends who really like that film, and I just want to let them know that, you know, they like it because they're not good people and they don't love God. Yeah, he's an interesting director, and through this period of time, I will say that I've kind of figured out with M. Night Shyamalan when he's at his best. He's at his best when he's allowed to come up with an interesting premise, when he's given a decent budget but not too big. He tends to do better when his stories are smaller and a little bit more self-contained. He definitely benefits when he has some co-writers there, because he definitely has a tendency, and it kind of in a certain way reminds me of George Lucas in a certain way, where he's not the best at writing believable dialogue and sometimes getting performances out of his actors that feel human and believable.
If we're gonna die, I want you to know something. I was in a pharmacy a while ago. There was a really good-looking pharmacist behind the counter. Really good-looking. I went up and I asked her where the cough syrup was. I didn't even have a cough. And I almost bought it. And I'm talking about a completely superfluous bottle of cough syrup.
The way your characters act in certain situations, especially in M. Night Shyamalan movies, which tend to be pretty crazy situations, if the people don't act accordingly, it can disconnect a viewer from what is going on. In particular, go watch Old. Old has too many moments where characters are running into crazy things, and from scene to scene, it almost seems as if these people are forgetting the traumatizing thing they just saw earlier in the film, and that definitely disconnected. But I will say, like I said earlier, this Knock at the Cabin is M. Night Shyamalan at his most stripped down. And while I do think that is good in the sense that it holds back some of his negative tendencies, I also think it kind of robs this film of some of the good parts of M. Night Shyamalan's sort of particular style. But I do think that is a challenging thing for a filmmaker to try and reckon with. You know, art is not a simple math formula. It's very nuanced. There's so many variables going on. But I am, for the most part, glad that M. Night Shyamalan has done away with some of his negative traits. But I'm hoping with Knock at the Cabin that he's allowed to kind of add a little bit more of his personality back into it, because while this movie is solid, it is kind of forgettable a little bit. It's kind of bad saying that, but it's true. Compared to some of M. Night Shyamalan's heights, this movie will be kind of seen as like, that was pleasant, but not one of his best. So it's time to talk about this. It is time to settle this great debate amongst many of the film community. And that debate is, who is the best wrestling actor? In particular, what I mean is someone coming from wrestling and coming into the film industry. And I think it's pretty solid and easy to say that Dave Bautista is the best wrestling actor. It is interesting seeing what Dave Bautista has done with his career. You know, he could have very easily gone the Dwayne Johnson route of acting. You know, Dwayne Johnson has definitely gone a more typical leading man way. And, you know, no knock against him necessarily for that, but Dave Bautista has not decided to go that way. Dave Bautista seems to be taking on more of a character actor route to his career, right? Like, he has a small role in Blade Runner. He seems comfortable not being the lead of a film, even though he's got that big hulking presence. He could very easily be an action star, but he has chosen to play supporting roles and character actor roles, which I have found very interesting. But I don't just think it's Dave Bautista's choice in roles that has led to him being the best actor of the wrestlers coming into the film industry. I think there's another aspect that Dave Bautista has, which is there's something to Dave Bautista's eyes. There is more layers and nuance in his eyes. He seems more comfortable allowing a certain sadness to be there, or a certain sort of conflicted look to be in his eyes, in a way that, in comparison to someone else like a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has seemingly gone the route of laying the leading man. And, you know, it has benefited him a lot. He's one of the biggest stars in the world, but it has made it where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the longer his career goes on, the more I realize that I don't think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is taking many chances, and then I think that his acting ability has suffered. One of the only roles I can think of with The Rock where I thought his acting was actually interesting was in a movie called Be Cool from 2003, which in a certain way was a kind of more Dave Bautista tactic, where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is not the main star of that movie. And while that character I think now is a little problematic in terms of a lot of that role is just, oh my God, look at The Rock play this guy that's kind of feminine and possibly gay.
You guys have to go to nationals. What is this, hush money? We don't need you. Why are you so mean? I'm just trying to be strong for my squad.
I do think The Rock, for the most part in his career, has sort of let any of that kind of character actor stuff go and has sort of given way to being Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the movie star persona. But I do think that Dave Bautista has potential. I mean, I think if he keeps being allowed to do more roles, especially like in this movie, Knock at the Cabin, he is one of the most interesting parts. He has such an interesting presence in the film where he's clearly this big hulking guy, but he's really polite, doesn't seem to be reveling in the terrible situation he is putting these people in. He seems very empathetic, and it makes him such an interesting actor, and I'm very interested to see what roles Dave Bautista hits. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there is potential possibly for Dave Bautista, if he keeps working at his acting craft, that he might get nominated for an award at some point for acting, and I think that would actually be a really amazing thing for wrestlers. Like, maybe it could open the door for other wrestlers to come into acting and not be afraid of being vulnerable and allowing themselves to broaden their acting abilities. So I hope that Dave Bautista is the one possibly to open that door. And so let's just give Dave Bautista his kudos. There you go, buddy. Okay, now I'm going to say spoilers if you've made it this far into the video. And I'm not going to go into necessarily particulars, but I'm going to talk about the problem that I have had with Hollywood and the way they make trailers. So, this movie, Knock at the Cabin. I didn't know M. Night Shyamalan was coming out a new movie, and then the first trailer for this comes out. I think the first trailer for this film is perfect, right? It gives you the premise, it gives you some of the tone, it lets you look at Dave Bautista and his acting and this interesting presence he's bringing, and it sets up this premise that is really interesting. Hey, his family, one of y'all have to kill each other to prevent the apocalypse, right? There's mystery built into that, right? Of like, are these people who are holding them hostage crazy? You know, are the family members gonna give themselves over to this? And you can see sort of the driving engine of that, of what the initial trailer presents as the mystery of, well, is there really an apocalypse? Are these people just crazy? Or is there a real apocalypse happening? And that this family does need to do this. That is all destroyed in the recent trailers of Knock at the Cabin, where it has several shots that reveal information that definitely leans away from that ambiguity and leans the story in a certain direction that spoils it. And I want to talk about why. I know Hollywood has done studies to show that if viewers are shown more information, even spoilery information, that they are more likely to come watch a movie. But I'm not gonna lie, in the last maybe like 5 to 8 years, I have kind of stopped watching trailers, right? Like, because I find that if I maybe watch one trailer that's maybe 3 months away from the release date, I usually do fine. But I'm finding more and more that not watching trailers makes my enjoyment of the film go up. I'm not being spoiled by scenes. I'm more open to what the movie is doing, and I'm more likely to be surprised, because let's be real, with a lot of movies and stories, some of the best moments are moments that are surprises, and we seem to be in a Hollywood landscape where they just want to spoil everything, and I think unfortunately this affects Knock at the Cabin. When I was sitting there, I was enjoying the movie, I was enjoying the premise, but because of these recent trailers showing certain scenes, I kind of knew where the movie was heading, and it gets rid of some of that ambiguity and mystery, unfortunately. So I just wanted to talk about that, and I'm curious if other people have kind of taken this tact. Like, I have a lot of friends who enjoy watching trailers, and then I have some friends who don't. It's a little bit of a debate between those two groups of people. So let me know what you think in the comments down below when it comes to that. So ultimately, I think Knock at the Cabin is a solid thriller that, unfortunately, by containing M. Night Shyamalan, it does unfortunately get rid of some of his special sauce that he puts on films, that at the height of his film work, it's missing that little ingredient, but it's still a solid thriller. And unfortunately, a movie that, if you can, please don't watch the recent trailers. I feel like if you don't watch the recent trailers, you will have a more enjoyable time in the movie. But yes, let me know what you thought of Knocked at the Cabin, and let me know if this has made you possibly forgive M. Night Shyamalan. Until then, I'll talk to y'all later.